People's Platform.
Corruption is something that Sri Lanka has been tackling for a very, very long time. One would think that maybe the economic crisis in Sri Lanka would at least be some sort of a deterrent for politicians, public officials, and various other players in the national politics to maybe refrain from engaging in corruption. That doesn't seem to be the case. Corruption is still taking place in Sri Lanka, and corruption has also been identified as one of the key reasons as to why Sri Lanka is facing such a severe economic crisis. Good evening and welcome. This is the People's Platform, and to discuss matters surrounding corruption in Sri Lanka, of course, we've got with us an expert on the subject, individual who's been fighting against corruption together with the organization that she leads, the Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, Nadishani Perera, attorney at law. A very good evening and welcome to the show.
Very good evening.
Nadishani, now, it's a known fact that there's much corruption going on in Sri Lanka. Nothing really seems to be materializing as far as justice goes. However, it's important to identify these corrupt actions, these issues, address them, and take action against them or initiate action against them even. Best example being, now Transparency International Sri Lanka had petitioned the Supreme Court against the orders that were placed under the Indian credit line to procure medicine, that the proper procurement guidelines were not followed. The medicine that's being brought down to Sri Lanka is dangerous. And today we can see that those facts that you said way back then have become a reality. People are dying. There is a criminal investigation ongoing now. What's really taking place with this case, Nadishani, as far as the progress of this matter?
Well, the case is progressing in terms of, it will go to the argument stage and so forth. But the good thing about the initial case that you referred to is that we were able to get an interim order preventing the importation of that entire list of drugs using the Indian credit line. And
so already there were certain drugs that were imported, and those drugs were distributed, administered to people. Now people are dying. Now people are losing their sight. Now people are suffering. But as a result of the action that Transparency International filed, several other drugs, or many batches of those drugs, were not brought to Sri Lanka.
Yes, at that point. And now we have more situations that have developed with the whole immunoglobulin situation, which was not known at that time. So that's another procurement we are talking about, a problematic procurement.
So, Nadishani, now when it comes to dealing with these kinds of corruption-related matters, now Transparency International Sri Lanka is an anti-corruption organization advocating for transparency in Sri Lanka's governance structure. Justice seems to be slow, and justice delayed is justice denied. So how do you propose that the country really progresses forward in addressing, but there are many corrupt issues, but if we're focusing on this corruption in the health sector of Sri Lanka, that is claiming the lives of people, mind you, it's amazing, or it's surprising to see that people can disregard a person's life for something as simple as money at such a massive scale. So moving forward, what do you think really can be done? What do you think should be done to address this very specific corruption issue that has, really sent shockwaves across Sri Lanka?
So we need to start with accountability, because now already there is evidence that something was done, pure corruption and money, public money has been spent to get these drugs where finally, which was, without any certification, and ended up harming the person, and now there is no manufacturer of the drugs to be found. I mean, it's an amazing case of, like you say, such level of disregard for human life. And what is very important is that the legal process that has started, the police case, this needs to be able to proceed without any sort of interference. At least people need to get some hope that this impunity that this country is suffering with, like what you said, where you don't see accountability for corruption, you see actually that high level corruption, especially grand corruption corruption, what we call. I mean, the white-collar criminals just get away all the time. I mean, we have a very bad track record in terms of holding them accountable, but if you're a small guy doing some small kind of level of corruption, you may actually be caught. So this is what even people talk about, and that prevents people, deterring people. So you think you can get away, you know. So therefore, this case that has shocked the nation, we need to see actual accountability. So that's the first thing. Thereafter, you need to see what are the corruption vulnerabilities within the mechanism, within the health ministry, that gave the space, the opportunity for these parties involved to do this. Because otherwise, we might address this, but the system, there might be a problem in the system, in the mechanism. So, you know, what are the different situations of levels of approval? What is the procurement, the mechanism? Is there a law? Now, in fact, it's not just health ministry. So, we don't have a law on procurement. We have national guidelines that are not in a uniform way followed by the public institutions. So first of all, we need to address that. This has come up as a recommendation also in
But there was a time in Sri Lanka where there was a National Procurement Commission that really oversaw all of these procurements. What happened to the commission?
Well, you know, that was removed by the 20th Amendment, then it was brought back. Now the question is that they need to be empowered, given the resources and the space to do their job. They are supposed to provide oversight and guidance and lead the process of bringing in a proper legal framework for the country, and then enabling the institutions to implement it.
So, Nadishani, moving forward, really, currently, given the current system that is available, there is nothing to say that a massive corruption, especially the one like that happened in the health sector, will not happen again. There's nothing to say that it won't happen again, is there?
Well, not until we take governance anti-corruption reforms seriously. You know, we can't be doing things the same way and expecting a different result, no, Shalan. So, if there's something that even the ordinary citizen realized during the economic crisis, was that a slogan we heard in the Aragalaya saying, we want a system change. Because people realize there's a problem in the system. This is not a pure economic problem. It is a governance problem that led to the economic problem. So then you need to address the governance problem, the root cause, the fact that the public trust, as the Supreme Court held, was violated. You know, it was breached. Those who are entrusted with public resources to be stewards, they are not owners. People are the owners. As stewards, to take the decisions in the best interest of the country, didn't do that. In front of our eyes, the country's economic crash. We had economic advisors saying, just don't take such and such steps. But no, they were not listened to. The country crashed, and now we seem to, and the cost is enormous, right? And it will take us many years to get back to just where we are, not like developing here, right? So then we have to, first of all, address that. I mean, some examples of the governance reforms, which were actually, in fact, very rightly identified by the governance diagnostic done by the IMF, as well as the civil society of Sri Lanka. Again, we set a precedent. It's like seems to be a first in the world. In parallel to IMF program, the civil society also came forward in this unique moment of reform in our country, because we know it is a moment to push for system change. People are asking for it, and we know that we have to do things differently if we are to go through that breakthrough moment that you are asking. So then the good thing is, at that point, maybe in 2022, if you ask, so what do you mean by system change? We get a little stuck, right? You know, and it's easy for politicians to then fool you. Exactly. You know, we are doing lot of reforms, You know, so now you have two documents that are beautifully complementing each other, the two governance diagnostics that set out very clearly, step by step, action points for this system change. Very first step is just bringing in transparency transparency where there should be transparency. Like tax exemptions is a huge problem, and I know this hurts because right now we are really feeling the impact of enhanced taxation, right, on all our lives.
But the issue is now the tax exemptions don't come to the general public. The exemptions comes to the higher ups.
Exactly my point. And now this is about being transparent. The requirement of both our diagnostic was that you let the public know through a website who are the organizations, that are getting under what law, how much, what's the lost revenue from that. You're talking about years of exemptions. It's not like for 1 year, 2 years. These are like long-term exemptions you're giving. So you need to have a economic justification for that, but and we don't. There's absolute opacity. We don't know, and it's a basic requirements. Bring this information to the public. Then we have conditions like about budget transparency. There shouldn't be secrecy around the national budget. See, we all know the budget, but what we don't know is what happens
afterwards.
How do you implement this, right? What are the expenses? What are the variations? Did you go above, and why, if so? What are the variations in revenue? If it was less, what was the reason? So we are asking transparency here, and there was also the whole recommendation to bring transparency into public debt. Let us know what are the loans that have been taken at one point.
Because at the end of the day, we are the ones who have to repay these loans.
Exactly.
As is happening right now.
And in fact, the sad thing is that some of these massive loans that we have taken generations to pay have not even really gone through the parliament. The minister has used the power, and they are like it's like almost like public debt being used as political tools, because you then talk about these projects that looks beautiful, and you don't talk about the fact that you had to pay a loan for the next 20 years for that.
Nadishani, now of course these are all very very refined discussions, very pertinent discussions that need to be done right now that Sri Lanka is facing this crisis. But let's face facts, Nadi. At the end of the day, it's only the political leadership in Sri Lanka that can take, long-lasting, stern action. I mean, the general public, of course, needs to reform themselves, transform themselves, and vote the right people in. But the fact of the matter is that this is an election year, and whoever the general public votes for, first they need to come from a political party, they need to be nominated, and it appears as if many of the same old faces are going to be contesting the election. They will be coming back into parliament. So my question to you is, Nadi, now the civil society in Sri Lanka has put forward a governance diagnostic. The IMF has put forward a governance diagnostic. In your honest opinion, out of the current members in parliament, what kind of a percentage do you think have actually read these documents in whichever language it's accessible, or at least even taken a glance at these documents, or even know that these documents exist?
Difficult to give you a percentage, but we know we did invite these people, we did share these documents with the political parties. And
what was the response been like, Nadi? I mean, usually when you send an invite, or you send a document or a governance diagnostic in this case, you usually get a response saying, well, I read it, these are some things I agree with, these are some things I don't, or even in a response saying I got it. What was the response like?
No, we did. We have been getting some responses, and there are some people assigned.
Is it overwhelming? Is it
not overwhelming?
Is it?
But it's. I would say the response would be satisfactory.
I'm asking you for response from Sri Lanka's political leadership.
Yes, but they would, say come and do a presentation. Yes, right.
And Transparency International has obliged.
Yes.
Okay.
We've even gone to Parliament and presented and explained even on the things like the new Anti-Corruption Act, and so in that sense there was some interest. But the real test would be after that. What would you do to ensure that this is implemented? It's completely in their hands with regard to a lot of these things, like you said, right, about institutional reform, about implementing the new Anti-Corruption Act. So the block comes there. You can talk and be happy with our presentation, but that's just the start. Are you willing to really represent the people when you are there and do your duty? It may not be the most politically savvy thing for you to do, but it's the right thing. So would you, the earnest appeal from our end to the people is this time around, when the candidates come to your doorstep with all types of promises, just set the correct criteria. First of all, I think to the political parties when they give nominations, right, that you don't put people who do not have a track record of integrity, like outright known to be corrupt. We have no shame. No, this is the you put people who have demonstrated some level of commitment, towards the country, towards people, to serve the people, and who have done their role, within whatever capacity that they held before, their job properly, their duty properly. If they've been MPs before, what have they done? The Parliament has a key duty of ensuring that public finance is utilized in the best way, but are you doing that? Or ensuring that the legal system is updated, but other than those two things, you do everything else, and we are paying your salaries. So you need to ask them things like, what reforms do you propose to make? And we are referring to actual governance reforms that will make it harder for high-level corruption to happen. Reforms that will make our institutions start changing. The tone from the top. We had to ask this question, media needs to ask this question. Now we have some examples. So put it to them. This has to become part and parcel of their manifesto, and with actual doable sort of targets.
Thank you very much, Nadishani. We'll cross over to a short commercial break and continue our discussion on this subject on the other side. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The People's Platform.
The People's Platform. Sri Lanka's first ocean-related docu-series. Sea of Sri Lanka. TV1. TV for life.
Landslide warnings for 10 districts. Colombo Badulla main road blocked from the 7th mile post in Haliala. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal of the UK, in Sri Lanka on a 3-day official visit. Anti-terrorism bill presented to Parliament. Tech giants voice concern over draft online safety bill. Says law could stifle innovation and investment. Health trade unions oppose allowance hike for doctors. Token strikes cripple hospital activities. ICC CEO meets Sports Minister in Colombo. TV1. TV for life.
The People's Platform.
Hello there and welcome back. You're watching The People's Platform. We're in discussion with Attorney at Law Nadishani Perera, the Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, about how Sri Lanka can fix this thorn in the side of Sri Lanka, if I may refer to it loosely, the subject of corruption. Nadishani, we spoke a lot about the governance diagnostic that the civil society in Sri Lanka had presented, the IMF had presented, and the actual political will in implementing and what really needs to be done instead of just having discussions on the topic. But Nadishani, now, at the end of the day, who implements these proposals, who can implement these proposals, who is most suited to implement these proposals is a decision that the general public has to take. And as much as it's important for organizations like Transparency International Sri Lanka or any other civil organizations in Sri Lanka to advocate for proper reforms, it's also pertinent or important to inform the general public on what they should be mindful of when they elect their leaders, because there seems to be a little lack of information among the general public also on what they should really look at when they are selecting a candidate. Now, there have been instances in the past where several checklists had been put forward on what to look for in a candidate. Is Transparency International looking into maybe a similar program closer to the election this time around?
Yes, very much. It's not just us, but several civil society organizations, especially those of us who have been working on election monitoring and leading to that voter education. We are now preparing on how to do this. It's a massive task, but reach as many people with this message, with this awareness. First of all, what's the actual situation here and what they need to actually ask for. And this time, at least this time, to vote differently. And I would like to say one thing right now here, one criteria,
yes,
which is becoming a big issue right now. I would say, as a voter, and if a person who has been a MP is coming back and asking for a, let's not vote for people, MPs, who are going to vote for a horrific bill such as the online safety bill or the Anti-Terrorism Act, that the versions that we have seen last, because these are very plainly violating the fundamental rights enshrined in our own constitution, especially the freedom of expression, which includes right to information, right to dissent, question, participate. But also they do not go in line with any international standards that should be there in a, say, anti-terrorism law or an online safety bill. And you want questions, at a time like this, when you have this huge task of uplifting the economy and people are suffering and lot of things to do. Now you are busy coming up with these two oppressive pieces of legislation, and after much effort, at one point you sort of paused it. Now you are saying no, you are bringing it. Now why? Just ask them why. Why are you in such a hurry to bring this law that prevents normal citizens from protesting, from using our own WhatsApp and social media, Facebook, to express ourselves in a dissenting way, again, and to have some people monitoring our social media, and why are you afraid of our freedom of expression? Why are you afraid of us asking questions about how you are actually reforming our country? See, if you are doing your job well, like you're saying, you would not be so scared. You will be happy to have people participating. In fact, the more you have people on board, and I'm saying I'm talking to the politicians, right? Any reform is easy because you'll have less people protesting the reform, right? But here, you are sure that they are going to oppose you. You are sure that you are doing something underhand. So before that, let's bring these two laws and ensure that, you proscribe some organizations, you arrest some people. It's terrible. So if you are going to betray our vote, betray the trust that once people who voted for you had when we sent you to Parliament, and against the wishes of the people, just go and vote for this kind of laws, then don't come back asking for our vote. I would like to end with that.
Thank you very much, Nadishani Perera. Of course, quite an important aspect that Nadishani spoke about, freedom of expression. We've seen how important freedom of expression has been for people in Sri Lanka through movements like the Aragalaya during one of the most trying times in Sri Lanka. And Sri Lankans have really understood the taste of freedom, because for a small time period there, we almost lost it. So thank you very much, Nadishani Perera, Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, for joining us on our program. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for tuning in to another episode of The People's Platform. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.